I just finished my first year in big tech as a senior software developer advocate, and in this video we're going to talk about some of the things that I wish I would have known before hopping into big tech, as well as some of the things that I learned along the way. Now mind you, this was my first year in tech since leaving the very stable military job I had, and I don't think I can get far into this video without talking about the massive amount of layoffs that happened in the tech industry. Microsoft, Amazon, Google, all these big tech giants were experiencing layoffs in my first year, and I got a little bit scared, a lot of bit scared. This is not what you expect your first year to look like once you finally break into tech, and it was just so uncomfortable because I have spent literally years of dedicating all of my extra free time to learning how to code, learning more topics, learning principles of how to navigate in the office setting of a tech environment, and sharing it with you all. So I've dedicated so much time to finally breaking into tech, and I did, pat on the back. But once I'm there to see this massive wave of layoffs it was scary, disheartening, frightening, all the words that have ing on it. And during all these layoffs, I had to come to terms with that one day I could just wake up like usual, pour myself a nice cup of coffee, try to log on to my computer, and realize that I no longer have access to my work laptop. I mentioned before that I was in the Air Force before this, and I really didn't understand the concept of being fired or being laid off. We don't have that concept in the military. So the fact that this was happening at this scale was just, I couldn't get my mind around it or what to do. I could get my head around the reason the layoffs were occurring. During the pandemic, money was flowing, interest rates were low, and people overhired, so now they were cutting back. I get that, I can get my head around it. It's awful, but I understand. But the most bizarre part about all of these layoffs happening within these various different companies was how they were happening. Like, employees had no heads up, no warning. They would just try to log onto their systems and boom, no access. They would see a 15-minute meeting show up on their calendar, and then they're like, wow, this is it. I guess I'm done at the company. That was probably the craziest thing that I have observed. And once again, I understand there is a reason for that method of layoffs, but it was just terrible to watch from the sidelines thinking, is this gonna be me next week? In a month? I guess we'll see. But I swore to myself that if I was gonna get got, I was gonna get got with the goods, you know what I'm saying? Which loosely translates to I had to get like good and understand how to advocate for myself and show other people what I'm working on and that work has impact. So back in the day when I was just a young pup in the Air Force and I was about yay high to a grasshopper, I had the smartest supervisor in the world tell me something amazing that changed the trajectory of my career. She said, no one cares about your career more than you. Just a fantastic piece of advice from Sergeant Shoop. But this was interesting to me because I am a very trusting person. So I'm like, I got a supervisor, their job is to take care of me and make sure they're advocating for me. That sounds good enough for me. But then I started to realize that there is just absolutely no way that my supervisor cares about my goals, my passions, my plan for success as much as I do. It's just not possible. No matter how great your supervisor is, no one cares about you as much as you care about you. So remembering that piece of advice, knowing I needed to advocate for myself, and knowing that layoffs were looming around the whole entire tech industry, I got to work on two plans, Plan A and Plan B. Now, Plan A was to make sure I had a clear and concise record of all of the wins I had, the projects I worked on, and maybe even some of the fails that didn't plan out, but I still got that data that I can represent. I even went as far as to make a reoccurring Slack workflow that reminds me every Thursday to input my accomplishments for that week in the very specific format of action, impact, and result. What action did I take? What was the impact on the company? And how have things changed after that impact? Now we're still on Plan A, mind you, but once you have all those wins, you gotta make sure that someone knows about those wins. And it's a lot easier to share those wins when they are in a very specific format, so someone can just glance at them and be like, oh, this dude is awesome. Instead of having to go into a 3,000-word essay of why you're great, they can just see a couple lines of, dang, he really moving out here. So once you have that list of achievements that are formatted precisely, then you can share them with someone. That someone should hopefully be someone in your chain of command so that when it comes time to advocate for you, they can do so in a very clean and concise way. We love that consistency. Now that was Plan A. Document your stuff and share it with folks. Plan B was not as fun to think about. It never is, but I will never be caught without a backup plan. In the event that I was let go, fired, laid off, people outside of my company still needed to know that, hey, this Jeremiah people's guy. He's still on top of it. He's making moves, and if we have the chance to hire him, we should do so. So I wanted to hype myself up. I'm like, yo, I'm a person. I'm a people's person who can do things at scale. I got all these talents and whatnot, but you don't know about them unless I kind of show them. You know, show you my talents in a non-flexy, slight flex, professional workplace, flex a thing type deal. So if you've been in tech for more than a year, you know that there are always a ton of recruiters trying to poach you and trying to get you to work for their company. And typically, people are happy at their jobs, so they don't really entertain those recruiters. But this is a different market. People are getting fired left and right, so I picked up the phone, baby. Oh! So now, instead of just being ridiculously overwhelmed by all these messages coming in, I'm like, you know what? I will hop on the phone with you for 15 minutes just to talk, you know, make some connections, maybe even talk to some other software developers, some other software developer advocates, just to figure out, hey, how's your job doing? Do you like what you're doing? Well, I'm doing great over here, so in case there's ever, you know what I'm saying? But okay, keep my name in your head just in case. So yeah, that's the first thing I learned about being in tech in my first year, is that these coveted jobs that we work endlessly, hours upon hours to achieve, they're not set in stone, and they could be gone any day. And make sure to take care of yourself so that you do not have to repeat the process. Okay, so we're moving on from that, kind of, a little bit. Advocate for yourself, part 2. Please negotiate your salaries. Holy smokes. Goodness. Intuit did a study, and they said nearly 60% of millennials are not negotiating their salary, which is just crazy, because that means you are leaving money on the table. Because Levels.fyi did another study, and they said on average, they're likely to be able to help you increase your job offer by $30,000. That's 30,000 reasons to pick up the phone, write an extra email asking, hey, could I have some more money, please? That would be great. Because a large majority of the time, they're like, okay, yeah, we'll do that. Like, go get your bag. Your initial offer that you get for most any job in tech is not the final offer, or not even the best offer. They have this band thing, and originally they offer you the lower part of the band, because why not? And then if you have some competing offers, you're more of a competitive candidate, they can move you over this way, which happens to be, on average, according to Levels.fyi, $30,000 more than what your original offer. Negotiate. But to be fair, I didn't really know negotiating was a thing prior to leaving the military. The only reason that I even knew that it was possible to ask for more money, a weird concept, was because I had people in my network that were telling me, ask for more money so you can get more money. Which brings me over to my next topic, which is networking. Like Mayuko, the OG of software engineering YouTube, has made hundreds of hours of content about how to negotiate your salary. She told me in person to negotiate your salary. These are the people that you need to keep in your circle. These are the people that you need to keep in your network, because they're trying to look out for you so that you are doing the best for yourself. But building a network is not something that you do when you need a job or when you need to depend on your network. When you need to depend on your network, it's too late to build a network. So once again, it's never a bad idea to have people in your corner looking out for you, and it helps just a ton. Before you get into tech, I remember when I was first applying for jobs, I just would go through the portal, apply like a regular person, and I was instantly denied every single time I tried to apply without a referral. It's only when I started to lean on my network that I was like, yo, y'all hiring? Oh, great. Can I have a referral? It's when I started to get calls for interviews by hiring managers, because of the, say it with me, you can't talk because you're, okay, because of the network. So I think it's pretty easy to understand that a network is pretty helpful for getting into tech, but what I didn't know was that it's still helpful to build out these connections with your coworkers once you're inside the company. It is really easy in this world of remote work to not really care about your coworkers, be like, they're just a floating bubble that sometimes I pass by in a online chat room. But no, like, your coworkers are real people. So when you get the opportunities to go to offsites or meet up for lunch in the office, take that, because it's the little moments in between meetings, the little moments passing by, that you just learn so much about these other humans that you're spending 8 hours a day with. And getting those extra few seconds to talk to your coworkers to build your network within your company isn't just beneficial for like networking purposes in case you get laid off, like, hey, you know who's hiring? But it's also helpful like within your company, because a lot of the projects, a lot of the things that you do require other people to get across the finish line. And if you don't really have that friendship or that understanding of what the other person's life looks like, then it's kind of hard to really get anywhere with any of the projects you're doing. For example, I have a friend, coworker, his name is Joe. Joe has to pick up his kid between 3 and 4. I know this because I talked to Joe earlier last week and he said his schedule's changing. So now I know when I need to talk to Joe, do it before 3 and after 4. And since I invested that extra 10 minutes into Joe, Joe got my back. Joe's a fake person, by the way. Joe's not a real person. I'm sorry if there's any coworkers that I have named Joe seeing this. I don't know you. I'm sorry. Moving on into the most beneficial piece of advice that I wish I would have known before hopping into my big tech job is that when you look people right in the eye and you're like, hey, like and subscribe, they just might. So next up is learning. Once you finally make it into tech, the learning does not stop, and it's not supposed to. No matter how good of an applicant you think you are, once you get that job, you're gonna have to pick up new software, new technology, and new what to have you. Every job, every employer has their own specific set of technologies and tools that they use, and they do not really expect you to have 100% of those requirements on your resume before joining. So once you make it in, you gotta learn, and you gotta learn a lot. That whole learning new stuff on the job is definitely an expectation of most employers. So having a willingness and an aptitude to pick up new software, learn it well, and be efficient at it, proficient. And be proficient at it is just something that you're gonna need to have. So currently at work, I'm learning the ins and outs of the Dino runtime environment, but even outside of work, I'm still learning, which is why I'm super excited for today's sponsor, Zero to Mastery. Because every single time you open up any application, you bump into anyone who is also in tech, it's artificial intelligence this, OpenAI this, and I was so tired of not knowing enough about artificial intelligence to hold a conversation that I finally decided to take some courses and get brushed up on it. So I signed up to take the ChatGPT and large language model course from Zero to Mastery. The course is solid. The instructors are excited to be there and they make fantastic and engaging content. And that engaging content is hours upon hours of video content, which is my preferred way of learning. They also have courses on ethical hacking, web development, UI UX design, crypto dev, DevOps. The list literally goes on. And of course, you can use my discounted code in the description to get started with Zero to Mastery. And once you're in, be sure to join the Zero to Mastery Discord community with over 400,000 students. Figuring out what to learn is one hurdle. Figuring out when to learn it is another hurdle. And figuring out which steps to take to progress your career is yet, did you guess it, another hurdle. But fortunately, there's always someone with the answers. Harry Potter had Dumbledore, Luke Skywalker had Yoda, and then Karate Kid had Mr. Miyagi. But who do you have? Now, all these mentors have something in common. They're old and crusty. Yes, but they also have already navigated the water successfully that you are currently doggy paddling in. So that's why finding a mentor and lashing on for dear life is one of the most beneficial things that will make or break your career. So finding a mentor will literally save you loads of time. I'm talking like years, because attaching yourself and siphoning all the information from a great mentor could be the difference between you catapulting yourself into a very healthy career or just staying stagnant and not moving anywhere because you're trying to do it all yourself. A few weeks ago, I went onto my Instagram, instagram.com, and I asked you all, hey, ask me some questions that you would like answered in my next video about my first year in tech. This is this video. And y'all asked some questions, so let's answer a few. First question is, where do you recommend starting? Where do you recommend like starting to learn to code? And I would say do what I did. So the first step that I did was free code camp, a free code camp where you can test the waters and dip your toes in and see if you even like this world of programming. After that, you can move to a more serious type of course where you can learn the ins and outs in a more structured format. Free code camp is fantastic, but I don't know why, but I took it a little bit seriously when I had a little bit of money in the game. Like, I'm more invested because I know, hey, I paid for this course, I'm going to finish it and I'm going to make it count. That's just my opinion, but that's where I would recommend starting if I was you. Person named Crystal asked, if there is one piece of advice that I could give to my younger self, what would it be? And I would have to say, Crystal, that I would tell my younger self to make sure you are very conscious of the people that you surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with people that steal and lie, then you're probably gonna lie and steal. But if you surround yourself with people who are career driven, they're really excited about building a healthy and beautiful future for themselves and their family, you're probably gonna start thinking like that as well. So if I had to go back and tell my younger self something, it would be to really take a good hard look of the people that you surround yourself with. My boy CJ asks, is artificial intelligence becoming too dangerous? And I have thoughts. I have opinions. They're just my opinion, and let me see if I can make this make sense. I feel like artificial intelligence is just the latest and greatest big invention that will change future. Much like the mechanical assembly line changed how cars were built. Before that, people would build cars by hand, they would get built, but it would take a lot of time, would take a lot of people. I feel like AI is essentially the mechanical assembly line. It will tremendously increase and improve your productivity if you let it, or you can try to avoid it and be like, nah, I'm gonna build this car by my hands because that's the way I was born, that's the way I was raised. So yeah, I think artificial intelligence is dangerous if you let it be, but if you adopt it and you incorporate it into your working life, then it has a chance to really streamline your working life and benefit you as opposed to being dangerous to you and your job. So the last question I'll answer comes from Shayo, and he says, in 3 words, sum up your life before and after big tech. And I would probably say I'm ridiculously blessed. I have had such a journey, such a public journey getting into tech, and it's been made possible by you all watching and supporting and rooting me along the way. And I'm just really blessed and happy to be where I am today. Thank you so much for watching. Follow along, subscribe to continue following me through my journey as I navigate this world of tech. And of course, I will see you all on the next one. See ya.